Well, this is a very exciting day at San Francisco Opera. I'm here with John Adams and Peter Sellars as we delve into the detail of Girls of the Golden West, a new opera by these two incredible creators that will be coming to the stage of San Francisco Opera in November 2017. And today and yesterday we've been deep in design meetings. We've seen the detailed sets and costume renderings, and many discussions are happening about how the props are built, the fabrics, the stage machinery, all of the elements that now take the opera to the next level. So John, I'd like to start with you and like to ask you, what does it mean to be birthing a piece in your homeland?
Shortly after I came out here, I bought a little cabin in the High Sierra and have gone there every summer and sometimes in the winter since then, and I feel I know that area. And when Pierre and I were sort of brainstorming about what we wanted our next opera to be, somehow the subject of an updated Girl of the Golden West came up. Of course, everybody knows the Puccini opera. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's it, because I know this area, I know the gold mining, the story of how it was done, and I know the terrain. And that combined with what's going on right now, socially and politically in our country, Silicon Valley, this sort of vast, hectic balloon of kind of unreal wealth, the current political situation, the campaign that we just went through, all of this came together in the most wonderfully harmonious way to stimulate me to write this opera.
And Peter, can you talk a little bit about how the source material came together for this? Because between the two of you, you found some incredible original pieces that you have woven together into a very cohesive, dramatic whole. And can you talk a little bit about how you found those materials and what it's meant to be using the original voices?
In the case of California, what's marvelous is that the kind of series of accepted images and cliches of the gold rush were quite out of date. Hollywood latched onto the gold rush in an early period and created the image that most of us have in mind. Mm-hmm. And then that in turn was made into musicals and so on. And in fact, when you scrape the surface and go to the actual research, it tells you a very different set of stories. As soon as gold was discovered, word went out in newspapers all over the world to say, all you have to do is go to California to get rich. And so at that moment, from 1849 on, there were Peruvians, Chileans, Australians and Hawaiians and Japanese and Chinese and Scottish people and Germans and Italians and French people all over meeting in the state of California. Mm-hmm. And it was this amazing boom economy where people would be rich in a second and then suddenly lose everything in another second. And this rags to riches and high and low and hilarious and desperate mm-hmm. energy of that has this incredible emotional kaleidoscope.
And Peter, on that subject, on that front, from the perspective of how you'll bring this to life visually and dramatically, what's the balance of historical accuracy versus a more contemporary interpretation of that time?
Aristotle has this great line that poetry is more interesting than history, because history is about what happened and poetry is about what might happen. Mm. We get to be artists and we get to actually create and recreate and invent.
How important was it to you to keep this piece kind of connected to the Puccini through the title?
I think what we're saying by kind of co-opting that title is, as Peter just implied, there's another richer story here. Mm-hmm. that the Puccini story, it's a relic of its time, 1910, same era as Jack London, very kind of romanticized stories of the West and of Alaska. We now look at history through a different lens now. All the scholarly work and all the feminist studies and identity focus that we bring to any examination of a social or historical event is very different now than it was. So, we care about these people who've always been in the background. We care, well, what is this poor girl who's brought from China and has to work as a prostitute? What is she really thinking? Is she just miserable, or does she have a great deal of pride? What about this freed slave who's come to California? What are his feelings? What about these women who, are completely surrounded by this rugged, raw, probably very coarse men, whose lives are so harsh? So, we're viewing this kind of archetypal story, which I guess it's in a way, it's the story of King Midas. It's the story of the Nibelung, it's the story of Silicon Valley. It's anyone who thinks they can, make it rich, and finds out that the realities are much darker and potentially much more devastating.
But this is a new era where we're actually recognizing, no, history moves a different way. And we are moving history a different way. And so what I love about this is Girl of the Golden West becomes Girls of the Golden West. And we start to recognize that something's moving through a whole society. And that's what's exciting.
Well, my real pet iconic figure for the Girls of the Golden West is the mule. And the very first scene opens with our character, Dame Shirley, riding a mule to the gold country. And Peter's somehow going to have to figure out how to get Julia Bullock onto this mule and then have her fall from it onto the mud while she's singing my music.
So this is a powerful opera from day one. Like the first minutes is already an event.